cameras are watching drivers in Northeast Ohio. Cleveland has the red light cameras for drivers who try to run red lights, and Akron has speed cameras. Keeping students safe is the goal of those Akron speed cams. That's what officials say. They say the cameras are in school zones to protect kids in crosswalks, but the city still lacks a concrete policy on how the cameras should be used, and some drivers say that they are unconstitutional, and now a lawsuit's been filed over this Big Brother debate. And you may be wondering what this gentleman is doing here. He is the attorney who filed the lawsuit. This is Warner Mendenhall, and thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
This is such a fascinating issue. Now tell me, why'd you jump into this in the first place?
Well, I got in for a very simple reason. My wife got one of these tickets in the mail, and she said she wasn't paying the fine because she didn't know whether she was driving her vehicle at the time. And that's the point here. These speed cameras target vehicles, not people. So people who are speeding and breaking the law aren't getting the ticket, it's the vehicle owner who's getting the ticket.
But wouldn't you argue, though, that at least it deters drivers from speeding in school zones? Would there not be some kind of an upside to it?
Well, here's the thing. Certainly it deters speeding, but it's unconstitutional. It is illegal for the city to have these speed cameras in place in Akron. And I want our city to follow the law as well. If they want to enforce speeding in school zones, they should have an officer in place.
Well, if you say these are illegal in Akron, then what about our red light cameras in Cleveland? Does that not fall under the same category?
Yeah, I think it does. Ohio has uniform traffic laws which are supposed to be enforced uniformly throughout the state. There are only two exceptions to that, and that's a parking ticket or an equipment violation for a big truck operator.
Well, what's going to happen next?
Well, right now we have our lawsuit filed in Akron. There are a number of lawsuits around the state. I know there's one up in Lorain. I know there's one in Steubenville. I assume that there'll be one in Cleveland shortly. In our lawsuit in Akron, we're going to ask the judge for an injunction to stop enforcement by means of these computerized cameras which target vehicles, not people.
Now, obviously, if it gets thrown out, it affects everybody who goes through those intersections. But what about the cost to you personally? I mean, who's paying for this lawsuit?
Well, I've done this on a pro bono basis. There has been a significant amount of funds collected by the city of Akron. They issued about $400,000 worth of fines in the first 2 weeks, and I think they've collected already about $130,000. We need to see that money returned to the vehicle owners because we don't know whether those vehicle owners were driving those cars or not.
Okay, and you are going to be having a public hearing soon, or a meeting at least, to educate people, not necessarily if you want to join the lawsuit, but if you want to know more about it and what your goals are with it. You're going to announce that soon on your website, right?
Right, that's correct. We'll have a public meeting in the next week or two.
Okay, and you can get to his website, warnermendenhall.com, by going to newsnet5.com, and that is the address of his office, and the phone number 330-535-9160 if you are interested in learning more about this. Warner, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right, we've got more news coming up. Our next guest is Kyle McLaughlin, who has a new show.